Into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I am James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and as always, DK in the background running the show. We are excited. Glenn, it is Steelers week. Do you remember in school when it would be Steelers week and how like pumped up you would get because there would always be that one friend that's like a Steelers fan but that lives here in Maryland?
But really, they're just like that person who likes to just be he likes to always pick whatever you're not picking.
The contrarian all the time.
Contrarian, thank you. Yes, exactly. Now, but does it feel like a typical Steelers week? I mean, because Big Ben is obviously a shell of himself. We got a lot of new players on this end. And, I mean, it doesn't seem like the Steelers are the main competition for the Ravens for the North right now. It seems to be the Bengals. So does it still feel like Steelers week to you?
Well, it does to me in a certain sense because I don't take any of these games for granted until these coaches, are no longer the coaches of the two teams. Certainly this game is going to be competitive no matter what the circumstances. So in that way, it's going to be physical. It's going to be heated. It's going to be competitive. But I will say this. When I was, if you asked me a few years ago, the most hated team that I had in the AFC North was the Steelers.
Yeah.
I hate the Browns. I hate the Browns.
But for different reasons, right?
Different reasons. I respect the Steelers. That's why I'm much more concerned about this game than I was the last one. Because I respect the Steelers, their franchise, the head coach. I don't respect their quarterback that much, but I do respect their franchise. And so I don't take this game for granted. But
now, when you say you don't respect Big Ben, is that because off the field stuff or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have to delve into, we'll talk about the vault tonight. But we don't have to.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. It really has to do with the fact that I think he takes very poor care of his body and then holds everyone else to a very high standard, and doesn't do everything he can himself via driving i.e. driving a golf cart around and only practicing for half a day. He doesn't even get through all of walkthroughs right now. He only does half of walkthroughs on Friday.
Big Ben, there ain't a whole lot that's going to surprise him. If he wants to take a vet day, that's fine.
But every week, so he doesn't practice all week and he does half of walkthroughs.
I mean, it doesn't send a good message to your team. I'll give you that.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, for those reasons,
especially when you're a struggling offense.
Right. But certainly highly respected franchise and coaching staff over there. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, shout out to Little Trev, by the way. Just started watching us and now doesn't miss a show. Appreciate Little Trev. And go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what's up, Adam78? What's going on, Melvin and Lisa? And I hope as well that we get a victory under the tree for Christmas. Early Christmas, Brandon. We still got a couple weeks before Christmas. But Dawson, what's going on? Chase Brown, appreciate you coming in here. And we are just getting started. So you made it here at perfect time.
Absolutely. And the one thing I want to do before we go any further is I want to give a shout out to one of our newest patrons, Mark D. It's been a while, but I've been asking our new patrons to send in some information about themselves so we can shout them out on the show. So apologies for the delay, Mark. But Mark sent this over, and I think it's pretty cool. So lives in Hagerstown, born and raised here. He was a Vikings fan as a kid. He still kind of is. But happy the Ravens have been back here since '96. He's, an older guy, so he remembers before the Ravens being here. Jumped on the bandwagon immediately. So this is interesting. His daughter has been a huge Ravens fan since back in '98. This makes me think of all the old guard, Glenn. He says he constantly reminds his daughter how lucky she was to see Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, and such an early year in the franchise. I think that's really cool. He found us on YouTube and he's been loving the show every time. And he loves the show. He's a consistent watcher and obviously a patron of the show as of late. So appreciate it. Big shout out, Mark. But I thought that was pretty cool because I'm sure you can relate to that as well. Just not realizing certainly at the moment the rarity of the fact that we had a Hall of Famer potentially, first ballot, but certainly locks to be Hall of Famers at every level of the defense at one point.
No doubt. I mean, I always talk about, me and Jimmy are fans of all sports, but certainly basketball is a big one. And it's been a big part of our lives. It's actually one of the things that me and Jimmy did a lot together, was playing some basketball. And I always said, man, I wish I was a couple years older so I could have seen, at an age where I could appreciate Michael Jordan, obviously some of the greats from the Celtics, the Lakers, I kind of the Pistons. I was kind of the back end of all that. So yes, very thankful that I got to see Ray, Ed, Suggs when I could appreciate the greatness, because we're certainly missing them now. So yeah, shout out. Appreciate the support. What's going on, Nana? What's going on, DJ? Appreciate you guys jumping in here with us. But let's get into some injury talk. We start every week with our injury discussion because we got to know who's playing if we're going to start talking this matchup. And man, Jimmy, every week I'm hoping that the list like improves somehow for the Ravens, but it just keeps getting worse. And this week it might be the worst I've seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that John is just making not a game, but he's turning this into some sort of strategy. Where didn't Bill Belichick, I think you mentioned, used to put like everyone on the injury report?
Because he got in trouble once, so he just put everyone on there.
Right. So like I feel like John is just rolling with it and just accepted who they are. So DK, throw this up here and we'll talk about the Ravens. And we'll talk about the Ravens first. And I got a little bit of a bone to pick when it comes to the Steelers. But we'll start with our Baltimore Ravens. Man, you're not kidding, Glenn. This list is I want to start with the cornerback room,
please,
just because there's a lot of them. So if I'm not mistaken,
I have a tweet that details the corners.
Oh, I think DK has this as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
because he's
Zrebiec. Shout out to Jeff Zrebiec of the Athletic. Go ahead, right. Jimmy.
So he says the Ravens cornerbacks. Marlon Humphrey didn't practice Thursday and Friday with an illness. All right. Anthony Averett limited with shoulder and ankle injuries, of course. He didn't even play in the last game. Tavon Young hasn't practiced all week with an illness. Jimmy Smith sat last 2 weeks, didn't practice Friday, so there's still this mysterious thing with Jimmy. Chris Westry expected to sit Sunday with a thigh injury, and dang it, I forgot his first name, Seymour, on reserve COVID list.
I think it's Kevon.
Is that what it is?
I believe so. And just to give you some clarification, if I can find it, on Jimmy Smith, I saw that Jimmy was back at practice as he was recovering from I can't find it. Oh, here we go. He was back at practice as recovering from a neck injury, but then had an ankle injury that popped up, which is the reason he was back to missing practice on Friday. So just when they thought they were maybe going to get him back, he goes down with a different injury, this time the ankle.
So much money.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
And I mean, what is this illness? I see again an illness popping up, forcing multiple players. Did we get any clarification? Is this the same illness that Lamar was battling that forced him to miss the Chicago game? I mean, what are we doing here? And then Marlon being on the list. Look, people can say what they want about Marlon and how maybe this year has been a bit of a down year when you compare it to years past for him. But I was looking at a interesting stat, and it's called incompletions caused by corners as the primary defender. And wouldn't you know, Marlon Humphrey leads the league in forcing 39 incompletions as the primary defender on a receiver, one ahead of J.C. Jackson from the New England Patriots. So this guy is still, while maybe down in as far as punching balls out and turnovers and such, he's still very, very effective. It's still our best corner, our best defensive player. And so if he can't go, now I expect him to hopefully be able to go because he was out with the illness. But, I mean, look, we thought Lamar was going to play the week he missed with Chicago, and we saw what happened there. So I'm getting nervous about who the heck is going to guard their bevy of receiving talent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big-time concern, man. I don't know who needs to go in there and just start putting like Athletic Greens or some other brand of multivitamin inside their smoothies that the cafeteria is putting together for them. But like, whatever you got to do, can we stop getting sick, please? Like, holy crap, this is insane. But you know who I'm most worried about on this list, Glenn?
Who's that? Jalen Ferguson?
Jalen Ferguson, man.
I knew you were going to say it.
I'm really concerned about Jalen Ferguson, who didn't practice. He's got an illness. I'm really, actually, in all honesty, I'm a little concerned about Calais Campbell. While we performed admirably with him being absent, it's just always tough to overcome a guy like that who's been playing so well this year, in my opinion. While stats haven't been great, certainly he's been playing really well. And so
second highest rated on the team, I believe.
Yeah,
scoring in PFF.
And so that was a weird one. John had no updates on him. He was cleared, full participant, and then had some issues or a setback. I don't know what's going on there. So that'll be interesting as well. Are there any other names on here that you're that you're really concerned about? And then I got to ask you this. Maybe I should know this. Maybe it's unfortunate that I don't. Did Nick Boyle play in the last game?
Yeah, he played. Yep.
Did
He did
just,
not look like Nick Boyle. I tell you that. When I saw him out there, he looked. I mean,
how did
Greg
I miss
Roman.
that? I swear I saw Tomlinson everywhere.
Well, they both played, but yeah, Nick Boyle was very much out there, but not the Nick Boyle we're used to seeing. I mean, he wasn't moving around very fluidly. Didn't look to have that initial punch when he takes on the defender and can knock him off the ball. Didn't really see that there. He's definitely still got a long way to get back to the Nick Boyle we're used to seeing. But as Greg Roman said when he was asked about it, a 70% Nick Boyle is still valuable to them, and so they'll hope that he continues to improve throughout the rest of the season. And maybe we get him up to 85, 90, 95% by the time it counts most in playoff time.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, this is the laundry list of the Baltimore Ravens. Get used to it, guys. It's not going anywhere. But I think the position group to highlight would be the corners.
Definitely. I mean, somebody's got to play in the secondary. And right now, they just signed, they signed a couple of guys, too. I want to point that out. They signed a pair of DBs in Robert Jackson and Blake Countess to their practice squad. Anytime you're making these roster moves like this, it says there's legitimate concern that you don't have enough players to suit up. So if they have to put Robert Jackson or Blake Countess into the lineup, they're going to be doing so with them having a very small practice time with the team. And that practice time will likely be such a crash course on the verbiage, the scheme, that they're not even going to have a chance much to get to know their teammates because they're going to be so buried in the books. And then, what type of quality you're going to get. So hopefully some of these guys can get back out there and get themselves ready to play on Sunday at an effective level, because if we have to rely on Robert Jackson and Blake Countess, it's not really a fault of their own, but they're going to be struggling out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, let's get into the Stillers, because they have quite injury concerns themselves.
Yeah, but before we get into this, can I mention that I have a bone to pick here?
Yeah, I remember you said that. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I have a bone to pick. This all week is all I've heard about is the Steelers injuries. The Steelers player TJ Watt and Hayward. Cameron Hayward is potentially not playing, and this guy is out, and this guy and that guy's out. I don't want to hear it. I simply don't want to hear it. Look, Stephen A. Smith says all the time, and he's a Steelers fan. No excuses. No excuses, because dang it, Tomlin's giving him no excuses. Tomlin had him in full pads this week.
That's right.
Okay, so I don't hear anyone feeling sorry for the Ravens. I hear people saying Lamar Jackson's doing incredible things, and that, according to some folks, that the Ravens suck and they're going to fall apart. Like, I hear that, but I don't hear any built-in excuses for the Baltimore Ravens. I hear all excuses for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm not here for it. We all go through it, and us more than anyone at this point. So while we're going to go through this injury report, just want to say no sympathy from me, or I'm assuming the 410 Sports Talk squad.
Yeah,
it just is what it is, guys. It's part of the game. Deal with it.
Yeah, step up. And I like that Tomlin's not using that as an excuse. And like you said, in fact, he's making them practice in pads because he didn't like their physicality. But let's go over this list. Big Ben still battling a pectoral issue. He'll play, but like Jimmy mentioned, does tend to miss part of practice. But, we'll see a familiar Big Ben out there. This type of Big Ben, which is clearly a shell of what he used to be, but can still beat you with his mind if you let him. Then Chase Claypool, I think he'll play. The biggest ones on this list that are concerns for them is Joe Hayden's already been ruled out. That's a big loss in their secondary. He's their guy in the back end of that defense who would likely have been the primary defender on anyone that they thought was the primary target. So on third down, I'm sure he would have floated to multiple positions. He's not going to be out there. So that's a big loss for them. Cameron Hayward also dealing with this mysterious illness. I don't know if it's the same as the Ravens are dealing with, but nonetheless forced him out of Friday's practice. I still think that he's going to play. I can't imagine him missing that game. They need him in there big time. If he's forced to miss, that is a back-breaking loss for them. They're already banged up on the up and down the defensive line, and he's their staple. He's their guy. He is their Pro Bowl talent right now. And if they lose him, man, could this be the game that the Ravens finally get their run game back on track?
Yeah. Now I got to ask a question really quick when it comes to this list. Why is it a protocol thing? Is that a reason why TJ Watt isn't on the list?
Yeah, it's like a whole different list when you're on
Is
the
it okay?
COVID-19 list. You're not on the injury report.
That's
It's
interesting because I think even on the Ravens one, didn't one of our doesn't one of our guys have COVID? Isn't he on the? Oh no, that was on Jeff's tweet. My bad.
yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I mean, if you think the combination of Lucian, TJ Watt, and Hayward, that would be a serious problem for them certainly. But you think Hayward's going?
I think he's going to go. Yeah, I mean, he's a tough guy. He's a warrior. He knows what this game means, not just for for the rivalry, but for this season. If they want to have any chance of going into the postseason, they can't continue to lose these games, and this is a big one. So yeah, I think he goes. But the biggest one is, does TJ Watt somehow get off the COVID list in time to suit up for this game? I don't know if DK can hopefully maybe try and find some updates there, because I know that Tomlin's been pretty tight-lipped. But like Chris Carter said, who came on with us, and if you haven't seen, go check out our episode with Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers. Gives great insight on what the Steelers are going through. But he said typically Tomlin, if he doesn't think a guy, he's not too tight-lipped. If he thinks a guy's out, he'll come out and tell you, even if it's early or midweek, he'll tell you he's out. He hasn't said TJ Watt is out, which makes it seem like there's hope that he could pass these protocols and be out there, and that would be a huge addition for them, and that would make me a lot more nervous going into this matchup.
Yeah, certainly. A lot more nervous. More nervous for a number of reasons. Of course, his playmaking ability, but also his punching ability. I always get worried with Lamar Jackson taking a swift punch to the ribs from one TJ Watt, the way that he the body blows he gave Robert Griffin III, I'm sure still hurt him today. If you talk about them, I'm sure he still grabs his ribs. I know I certainly do, just watching him on TV. So, but all right. So we know we have a decent idea who's going to be out there. There's a couple question marks on the Steelers standpoint. But let's get right into the matchups, right? So you have, and I like the way that we've been doing this. It's at least exciting to me. You have the Pittsburgh defense against the Ravens offense. That's where we'll start. So I want to give some stats when it comes to old Pittsburgh defense. But first of all, before I get into exact numbers, Glenn, how surprised are you that they're terrible at stopping the run? All right, is that like the biggest surprise as far as the defensive stats that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think that certainly jumps off the table. But the other one is the forced turnovers. They forced 10 total turnovers throughout this year. 10. That's 28. So yeah, I mean, those are the two areas. If you're in the AFC North, I mean, their primary focus is stop the run is number one for pretty much every team in the AFC North. Stop the run, make the other team one-dimensional. Number two is turnovers. I mean, those are your two goals when you're playing. They're 28 both categories. This is not, I mean, you're talking about Blitzburgh, a team that disrupts the passer and forces bad decisions and turnovers. They added two areas that is just not traditional for a Steelers team. And you can see the frustration on Mike Tomlin when he was asked about the criticisms being dealt to him from former players like Ryan Clark. He didn't defend his team. He just said, they're right. Those are guys that have had success here, know what it takes to be successful in this uniform. And they're right. We're not getting it done. And so they understand. I mean, 28 in run defense and turnovers forced. This is not a Steelers team we're used to seeing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so I have a question for you, Glenn. And if you've seen this already, I'll ask for your honesty here. But
absolutely,
I want you to give it a guess here. If you had to guess what the Steelers are averaging, what they're giving up per carry to the opposing team, what do you think the guess is?
Well, they're 28, so it's got to be around 5 or higher.
4.8. So you're right there.
Wow.
I mean, right at 5. But 4.8 yards a pop. And they're letting up 133.
And he hasn't even played the Ravens yet.
Right. Hasn't played the Ravens yet. They're giving up 133 yards per game on the ground. And they're giving up 234 in the air. They're also giving up 24.3 points per game defensively. So certainly, like you talked about, not the defense of old at this point. And like you said, and we kind of said at the beginning, there's been a lot of injuries, but I don't really care.
And talking about trending too, Jimbo, they've given up 41 in both their last games. They gave up 41 points to the Bengals and 41 points to the Chargers. So they're not even playing at their best, and they've been bad all year. So they're playing at their worst, and they weren't good to start. It's just shocking to see this defense playing so poorly. I don't really know what else to say other than I'm stunned by it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that those injuries, the key positions, I think what it has done is shown that the defense is good when healthy, but relatively top heavy. So not a ton of depth there, which is not a ton of depth in a lot of teams. I consider ourselves relatively lucky in that the Ravens fans will criticize our second, third, and fourth string guy, but compare those to other teams' second, third, and fourth string guys, and then, come talk to me. And so certainly when Watt goes out, when Hayden goes out, when potentially Hayward goes out, right? Like the guys you have replaced them are just brutal. Another interesting stat before I dish it over to you here. What do you think their total spend is this year? DK, put it in the banner. I'd like to know your thoughts. Their total spend on offensive linemen. What does their starting five in offensive linemen cost them in yearly salary? Combined, the five guys combined.
Man, I know Turner might have been a couple dollars, but other than Turner, I don't think they're paying anybody. So I'm going to say 10 mil.
DK?
Is it that bad? Because 10 mil is bad. I mean, you think about Ronnie Stanley makes more than that by himself.
Well, DK must have known. I can see it on his face. No, 12 and a half. $12.5 million is what they're paying for their entire offensive line. And like you said, Glenn, Ronnie Stanley's at home making more than that by himself. That they're, I think, 28th or 30th in the league in spending on the offensive line. So another sign, you said it, Glenn, run the football, stop the run. Look where they're not paying and look what they're not doing, right? Like, look, Najee Harris has one more rushing yard than Lamar Jackson right now. Incredible.
Yeah, and I don't have the numbers, but I guarantee he's got a whole lot more carries.
Yeah, I'm sure it's triple, right? Like something ridiculous like that. So anyway, my long-winded way of saying their defense isn't good, for sure. So who you got for the? Oh yeah, and who should we? While I tore down their defense, who should we look out for?
Yeah, there's a few guys that you still got to look out for. Minka Fitzpatrick
certainly
is the big one. He's their all-pro in the back end of their secondary. Just notched his first interception of the year, which is kind of surprising to hear that he's only got the one on the season. But look, they only have 5 total as a team, and nobody has more than one. So this is just not a group. But he is still a very talented player, and something you got to kind of make sure you spot before the ball is snapped to make sure you know where he's at. And then Cam Hayward, we talked about him a lot. If he's out there, I expect him to be out there. He's a disruptive guy. He's a guy that can, I mean, you put him over Ben Powers. Watch out Ben Powers and watch out Lamar Jackson. So they definitely got some guys on there. And of course, TJ Watt would be number one, highlighted, bold, and underlined if he was playing. But right now, the consensus is that it would be tough for him to get out there. So that's why he's not on our list. But yeah, so look out for Minka and look out for Cam Hayward. And then Devin Bush is a guy I would have figured I'd have put on here, but he just doesn't look like Devin Bush. He looks like an old, slow guy. And I get that he's coming off a knee injury, but something tells me that knee isn't I don't know if it's a trust issue. Like he's just not trusting the work that was done on that knee or what, but he just seems to have lost all his burst and explosiveness, which was what made him a good player, was the fact that he could fly around in the middle linebacker position. Well, he can't fly no more, Jimbo. So really the two guys is Minka and Cam that I'm looking for.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree 100%. And just to let you know, going back to what we were talking about before, I just saw that Najee Harris has 249 total touches between catching and running, more than anyone else in the NFL. 1 rushing yard more than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, that speaks to what Lamar is as a player and how dynamic he is. Yeah, I mean, he's a beast. Now, as far as...
Should we jump ahead real quick and get to Hammond's question? I know that we're going to get to this other
absolutely.
side. Should we just jump ahead? All right.
Yeah, so is it Hamed says, how y'all feeling about Bateman versus the Steelers? Well, I feel great about it because that secondary of the Steelers is just not – it's not something that strikes much fear in the hearts of an opponent. And when you're talking Joe Hayden is out, They haven't been able to find a slot corner all year. Still looking for that after they lost theirs to, in the division, I believe. I think the Bengals signed away their slot corner. So, yeah, defensively, outside of Minka, I mean, Terrell Edmonds is a guy who can make some plays, but certainly more known for his plays down in the box than in the
Yeah.
secondary, deep in the in center field. So I think he could have a really, really big game. I mean, there's an opportunity, but of course, a lot of that comes on, does the offensive line allow Lamar Jackson to have the time he needs? And does Lamar Jackson, knock off some of that rust? Because like he said himself, he was not good last game, and he's going to need to be better if Bateman's going to kind of show up. But I would say this is a time where we could see Bateman's first touchdown as a pro.
Yeah, I think we've been waiting for it for a while at this point, and no, it's just a matter of time because we've seen it in him. He's got the ability. It's just about getting the ball in the red zone at this point. So that will definitely be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it because this will be one of those marquee games for him as you look back throughout his career. Because like Brandon Williams said, matchups against the Steelers are what defined you as a Raven. Certainly, there's plenty of tape of Torrey Smith showing out against the Steelers and making big plays, and I think that Torrey is in the ring of honor of wide receivers here in Baltimore, like, one of the shining spots as far as wide receivers, while there haven't been a ton. And we want the same for Rashad Bateman. So it'll definitely be interesting. But let's see, we're going to get to the Ravens defense, the Ravens offense, talk about some stats, and then our keys to the game now that we've kind of talked about their defense. What you got, Glenn?
Yeah, so offensively, the Ravens right now are 4th in total yards. They're 6th in, they're 24th in turnovers. That's the area that they got to improve. They've got 17 turnovers so far this year. Not the Ravens we're used to seeing since Lamar has taken over. A little careless with the ball, so that's got to improve. They're 3rd right now in the league in first downs, which is interesting because they're 3rd in first downs, yet 15th in points. So they're moving the ball, but they're not finishing drives. They're 2nd in the league in rushing. They're 13th in the league in passing. And this is as far as yardage goes. They're 9th in touchdowns, though, rush. So they're 2nd in rushing yards, 9th in rushing touchdowns. They're 13th in passing yards, but 19th in passing touchdowns. So to me, the team is showing that they can move the ball in spurts, but they're not finishing drives very well. So they got to improve in the red zone. They got to improve their conversion rates, which we saw a bit of an improvement last week. But they got to continue to build on that. And then as far as, the big thing to me is the touchdown to interception ratio. It's 15-13, Jimbo. That is not, if I would have told you preseason that at this point in the season, the Ravens touchdown to interception ratio would be 15-13, you would have said you're crazy.
I would have said Joe Flacco's back at quarterback.
Exactly. So they've got some areas they absolutely got to improve on. And really it's about finishing drives and protecting the football. And I think if they do those two things, we'll see this offense start to kind of get back to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. So a few guys to, you know what? I'm not going to give my breakout player yet. I'm going to talk about a key here, Glenn. You talked about taking care of the football, and that's what I have written down. But I think the big thing about taking care of the football rolls right into my defensive key. So I'm not going to dig into it too further. Actually, I'll go right to my breakout player of the game offensively there, Glenn.
Okay.
I don't think it'll come to any surprise. It's going to be a running back. I'm going with Devontae Freeman, who I think potentially has earned him a spot. If it continues to trend this way, he's averaging 4.3 yards a carry this year. He's doing well with the opportunities he's been given. Maybe he might finally be enough for the Ravens to nudge Justice Hill out of the way and keep a guy like this for one more year. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Just a thought. Definitely interesting. But I think he will have a monster game, relatively speaking. He will lead the Ravens in rushing, and that is an anomaly in and of itself these days because it's usually Lamar Jackson. And I'll say he gets a touchdown and pairs it up with 4 receptions for a handful of yards. But I think he gets upwards to 80 and change in the run game. Yeah, I think he has a good game this week.
That would certainly help the offense because My key to the game is run the ball. I want to see a resurgence of this run attack, and I think this is the perfect matchup. You talked about how they're poor against the run. They're giving up,
Yep.
what is it, 4.8 a carry
Yep,
on the
4.8 a
season.
carry.
That's that, and they haven't played Lamar Jackson, who leads the league in yards per carry. So I think that number will climb. I'm just hopeful that we see those types of numbers from our running backs and not just Lamar Jackson, because we know what Lamar can do. So yeah, I hope that resurgence to the run game starts this week. And for my breakout player, I picked one that was a little more under the radar. Look, I think that Hollywood has a good game. I think that Bateman has a good game, and I could very much see Mark Andrews kind of feasting on that middle of that defense. And I think I agree with you. I think Devontae Freeman has an opportunity to have a big game. But for me, breakout, I want to pick somebody who isn't expected to do a ton. Every week he's not expected to do a ton because his role isn't huge in this offense, but it could be expanding, and that's Devin Duvernay. I think we need to see more of Devin Duvernay, and we're possibly gonna do a show in and of itself about this very topic. We see what Cordarrelle Patterson has become in Atlanta for the Falcons. They're basically their number one back and their number two receiving option all at the same time. He is their speed out of the backfield, so they just made him the running back. And this isn't the first time we've seen this for Cordarrelle. We saw him in New England getting used in similar fashion. And now we're seeing the same with Deebo Samuel out in San Francisco, where it's not just the occasional jet sweep. No, these guys are in the backfield. They're their speed back for their team. And these guys are both have Deebo Samuel built like a running back, plays like a running back, runs with the physicality of a running back. Well, so does Devin Duvernay.
Yeah.
Came out of high school as a running back, has running back skills, runs fearlessly, which is why he's such a great return guy. Yeah, I mean, he's physical. We've seen him in spurts in that coming out of the backfield in certain situations. He's never disappointed. Never, to me, nobody has done more with limited opportunities than Devin Duvernay. So let's see more of them. Let's see more opportunities, and let's see him used more in the backfield. So he's my breakout player.
I like it, Glenn, and I would love to see it. And I want to, after we address Hamed Hud, I want to talk about something when it comes to Devin Duvernay and your breakout play of the game. It says, as much as I hated that performance from Lamar, I loved how he was still taking shots downfield, even with the amount of interceptions he had. I mean, one thing about Lamar that we know for sure, having Joshua Harris on the show for a few years, Lamar has no lack of confidence. He really believes in his deep ball, feels confident in his own abilities, and feels comfortable in his own skin as a thrower. I think anyone that thought that he was going to start seeing ghosts or he was going to get nervous maybe just didn't understand him. But we learned from Joshua Harris really well that Lamar Jackson is never going to stop slinging that rock. And he's never, I think it would take an astronomical amount of mistakes for him to start to waver in his confidence. So, yeah, I mean, I can understand your point. Certainly what I'm getting from your point is that it was nice to see that Lamar Jackson didn't waver and kept his self-confidence and belief in himself. That's important, especially at that position, almost to an irrational point. You have to be confident in your own ability. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll agree with you there.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. I echo those same sentiments.
But I got to ask you this, Glenn. You talked about Devin Duvernay.
Yeah.
We heard Greg Roman talk about the vault.
Yes.
The mysterious vault that is his brain and the offensive plays and offensive play calls, and how, he doesn't want to use all his best plays and this, that, and the other. And it's interesting because I think we kind of talked about this more in 2019, 2020, when things were ramping up and we were starting to see Lamar like do more things and then widen the scope for him and things like that. But I was never a believer that he kept things from Lamar. Like he didn't call certain plays he didn't believe him, or like he didn't want to, put too much on his plate or anything like that. But hearing him talk about the vault and stuff like that, it makes me think, and it does get me a little concerned that like maybe we could have let it loose a little bit before, right? And trusted a little bit more and just threw the kitchen sink at him and see how he does. The offense in general, but obviously starts with Lamar Jackson. How much belief? I guess my question after saying all that, Glenn, is how much belief do you have in the vault, right? Like, do you think that there are these magic plays? You know what it makes me think of? Do you remember the episode in The Office when they have the leads and all the the sales folks are acting like jerks because they're highly incentivized to close deals, and Michael decides to hide the leads all over the place? It kind of, this is like mystique to it. Do you think that there's these real plays that Roman, just keeps in his vault and refuses to bring out until later in the season? Like, do you think it's a real thing?
I think it's a very real thing. And the thing
Do you
that's
think it's
tough.
common among other OCs as well?
I do. I think
Hmm.
absolutely. I agree with him in the sense that he said you see teams that unveil they kind of hit you with the kitchen sink early and then they sputter down the end. Now, I so what's tough about this vault is I don't think everyone gets to see inside this vault, meaning these plays, while they're there in the vault, they're there in theory. I don't know how much these plays are being practiced.
Yeah.
So if you're not practicing them, you can't use them on game day. So if they're in the vault, how often are the players seeing these? Like, are we at all practicing these? That way, if they are needed in a situation where you need to win a game, can you go to them, or are they just theories, or are they just X's and O's written in some notebook that nobody knows about other than Greg Roman, and that
Mm.
he's saving them, or are they actually able to be used? Because that's my only issue. Like, if you're practicing them throughout the year and saving them for the perfect time, okay, all right. I mean, look, I could have thought of some times like in the Dolphins game where we may have wanted to peek into that vault, maybe snatch a play out of there.
Yeah, like let's jumpstart the offense, right?
Right. But what tells me if they're not using them at all, then are they not being practiced? Because if they're not being practiced, then what's the point of having them? Because
Right.
you can't just use them. You can't just go, you can't go on the sideline and while the defense is out there, you're like, all right, guys, here's what we're gonna do. Like you
Yeah,
see
it's
in
like
the Water
drawing in the
Boy.
sand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this isn't like, basketball where Coach K or something can whip out the dry erase board and draw something up on the fly. It's too complicated. There's
Yeah,
too many
way too
moving parts.
orchestrated.
Yeah, so my only thing is, are we at least practicing these so they can be used if the situation arises where you need them? So
Yeah.
that's my only question. I do believe that there is a massive playbook that he has and a massive collection of gadgets and different formations that we may not ever see. But can we practice a couple that way when the time arises we can actually use them? Because if that's not the case, then I don't care what vault you may have. If they're not helping the Ravens on the field, are you saving them for your next opportunity? Like what's the point? So it is
Mm-hmm.
frustrating when I hear about
Mm-hmm.
this massive playbook and these secret plays and this, because maybe we're just not. Maybe we just don't know. Look, we're just fans, and we say that in our thing. We're not. I mean, we watch every game. We love football. We follow football our whole lives, but we're not experts to the level of these coaches. So maybe he does trickle these plays out, and the details are just lost on us, and we don't notice when these plays come out because there's a lot of moving parts. But either way, I want to see more of this vault. I want to see more of Devin Duvernay in the backfield. I want to see more of these creative runs and creative play actions and screens and all kinds of stuff. I want to see them, but are they practicing them so we can see them?
Yeah, amen. Now, but the only thing I will not tolerate is the idea that Greg Roman is not a good offensive coordinator. I think that his stats prove otherwise, guys. There's really no other indicator that you can use like to quantify other than what he's done. Like I get that he's made mistakes, but there's no perfect OC. Andy Reid has been out. Andy Reid is the godfather, right? Is an incredible play caller, and he's been out strategized. He's been taken to the
He's been
woodshed.
criticized a ton.
Yeah, but when everything's gravy, he's Gandalf, right?
Yep.
So certainly I think that Greg Roman is one of the best OCs in the NFL and arguably a top 5. You guys can say whatever you want that Lamar Jackson does it all, but I think Lamar Jackson puts him he puts Lamar Jackson in perfect positions. And I like Marky. By the way, Marky, got confirmation that your shirt is on the way today, in fact. So it is en route when it gets there based on the holiday season. It says around December 22nd. Stay tuned, but glad you're watching, Marky. All right, let's move on here to the Steelers defense against did I say that right? The Steelers offense against the Ravens defense. So
go.
Glenn is going to talk about the Steelers offense, players need to look out for, some stats, etc.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the stats. Offensively, they are currently 22nd in points, 22nd in yards. They are, so this is not the Steelers.
I just love the tone you're using, Glenn. Like the whole thing, 22nd in points,
I mean,
22nd.
you're just
Yes.
not used to seeing this many double-digit numbers attached to. I mean, overall in points, they're 22nd on offense, 23rd on defense. It's just not. I mean, we're used to the Steelers being a pretty darn good team, and right now the numbers say they're not so good. Now passing, again, middle of the pack, 15th in the league in passing yards, 19th in passing touchdowns. Not great. 28th right now in the league in rushing. So they're 28th at running the ball, and they're 28th stopping the run. I mean, this is just not a very good team statistically. It's just been bad. They're 27th in the league in rushing touchdowns, just 7 rushing touchdowns all season long. I mean, Jimmy, it's hard to find something that they're really good at offensively. Now, I will say this when it comes to, they still have some players you got to look out for.
Yeah, I was going to say, they definitely have names.
They got names. And these names could go off if you have coverage breakdowns, if you have some poor tackling, which we've seen both from this team. Of course, Big Ben leading the way. He's got 2,500 yards on the season, 64.5 completion percentage. He has 14 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He's been sacked 24 times, so you can certainly get to him. He's not the guy of the old where it was hard to bring him down. He was elusive without being quick. Not the same guy anymore. He's a bit of a statue back there, and you can certainly get to him. Najee Harris, their number 1 pick. He has 700 yards on the season, averaging just 3.6 a carry, which is not good. Averaging 64.5 yards per game on the ground. He's got 5 touchdowns. Again, not what they were hoping for, but I don't knock him for the production. I just think he's just battling a tough offensive line in front of him. I still think Najee Harris is a hell of a running back and has a bright career ahead of him. But you got to get some hogs in front that can clear them out, open some lanes, and make it easier on you. And then as far as catching the ball, their leading receiver right now is Deontay Johnson. He's got 68 catches on the season.
I think he only has 1 drop this year.
Well, then there's a lot of off-target passes because he's got 109 targets and just 68 grabs. But you're right. Last year, I think he led the league in drops. So if he's gotten anywhere, then that's progress for him. He's got 4 receiving touchdowns. Let's see. Najee's the second leading receiver with 52 catches out of the backfield. So, Jimbo, they do like to throw the ball underneath, which should come as no surprise because let's be honest, Big Ben, I don't know if he can still get the ball down the field. So a lot of times they're just dumping and hoping for yak yards.
And you know what makes me nervous?
What's that?
Patrick Queen's been playing really well, but he might make a couple business decisions against Najee Harris because I'm pretty sure Najee's bigger.
And, he's no Derrick Henry, but he's a big boy.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
So that will be interesting to see. As long as Pat is going downhill and Najee doesn't have a full head of steam, it might be different. But if you see Najee with a full head of steam, he might try and tackle him and strip the ball, do that whole thing that he likes to do on occasion like a DB. So hopefully we won't see too much of that. That's actually Patrick Queen right there telling Glenn to tell me to be quiet.
That's exactly who that was.
That's
stop hating. He said, just stop hating.
That's right. But I want to get into the Ravens defense.
Well, quickly, I just want to point out one other guy, Pat Fryermuth. Their big tight end, their big draft pick this year. He's got 6 touchdowns this year. Leads
Where's
the team.
he out of again? Is he
Penn State. Penn State.
Oh yeah. What they call him, Baby Gronk.
Baby Gronk. Yeah, he's an old school tight end, big bodied, can block, as well as got strong hands, can go up and get it. So 6 touchdowns, by far their leader in that area. So watch out for him in the red zone. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so let's get to the Baltimore Ravens. And all right, so I just realized I'm on the wrong page.
You want me to give you some numbers? I got numbers here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got some numbers. So defensively, all right. So defensively, the Ravens are as I'm trying to move my screen and it's frozen. Here we go. So they're this is a team that's still working through some things on the back end of their defense, but we're seeing improvement. Right now, they're 9th in the league in scoring. They're 19th in yards allowed. But here's where they're getting good. They're number 2 against the run. And what's great about that is that did not change after playing the Browns offense, who was number 1 in the league in rushing. They did not lose a spot in their ranking. So shout out to the Ravens for holding them, I think, to 40 yards as a team. So they're second in that category.
Averaging 84 a game is what we're allowing.
Yeah, shout out to them for that. Now,
Yeah.
passing, Jimbo, they're 32nd in the league in yardage given up passing. Where does that? I mean, how much is a game? How much do they give up a game?
Yeah, 275 is their net.
Man,
yeah.
Does that give you any reason to concern there with Big Ben?
Yeah, because they got names. I mean, you mentioned the tight end, you mentioned Claypool and Johnson and even Najee as a weapon, and whether it's downfield or not, I think a lot of it honestly comes down to the tackling, and these guys are playmakers. So, yeah, it makes me concerned. Certainly, I'm not taking this game for granted. I said that out of the beginning. You know, we've done some time talking about how on paper they're not good, but like, I'll get to this in my score. You got to kind of throw all that out the window. Both these teams are how important this game are. So yeah, this game is, excuse me. So yeah, certainly makes me a little nervous. Most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to be good. But let's be honest. How much of this dead last in passing came down to the missed tackles? Like, if they just tackle the guy with the ball in his hands,
right? It's all yak.
Exactly, and DK points out that yes, they are the same weight. So he's not bigger than Pat Queen.
Well, he certainly looks bigger,
but he's not small. He's not. Yeah, but he's not smaller either. So
yeah,
maybe he just wears bigger pads.
Sure, whatever you want to say, but mark my words: if he gets a full head of steam, Patrick Queen is making a business decision. While he's been playing well, I'm not convinced.
I'm sticking with Pat Queen. He's going to rock him if he goes right at him.
Yeah, but remember, he's no 5'2".
No, right? He's not. He's not.
He's so I gotta see it before I believe it. Is all I'm saying. If I see the pedal
you can't
backwards,
compare anyone to Ray Lewis.
Well, he's not C.J. Mosley.
Okay,
not stopping
right,
the run. He's not C.J. Mosley. So all
he's
I'm
not
saying
Zach Orr stopping the run for that matter.
Yeah. If I see the back pedal rip the ball out and try and take the chair out from under him, I'm gonna tweet about it. All right.
I have confidence Pat Queen is having a good game this week. Okay.
All right, I hope so, and I don't disagree. I think he'll still have a good game. I'm just saying that we'll see a few plays. If Najee gets a full head of steam, he's gonna be like, one of those. I certainly would do the same thing, but I can see Patrick Queen and I are different people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think either one of us is standing in the way of Najee going anywhere. Okay, so let's get into the Steelers offense, or did we already talk about them?
Yeah, that. We just talked about Najee Harris, Claypool, and
holy smokes!
No, we're gonna get into our defensive keys to the game, my man.
Patrick Queen's distracting me with these texts.
I know he keeps hitting you up. It's all good. All right. So my defensive key to the game is make Ben beat you. Glenn, you've mentioned it a few times that he is not the Ben of old, right. And so I think if the Ravens can, and I know this is your permanent key to the game, so I'm not spoiling it for anyone, but if the Ravens can just tackle and make Ben beat you, keep everything that he does in front of you and not over your head, and then limit the yak yards, that's how you make Ben beat you, right? And I think if you're able to do that, or that's how you make it so Ben has to beat you. Mm-hmm. So if the Ravens can do that, I think this game is over. Make Ben beat you with his arm, and so that's my defensive key to the game. If the Ravens can do that, I think it's over. And then, so go ahead and give us your key to the game, Glenn, defensively.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, I guess I spoiled it myself. Tackling will be my key to the game defensively for quite some time.
What will it take?
Well,
like how many games do you need to see before it's no longer your key to the game defensively?
I need to see 3 games of.
So is last game 1?
Yeah, I'll say 1 was last week. I think last week, when you shut down that run like that, you got to give them credit. So last week was number 1. This week, hopefully, will be number 2. But it's tackling. It comes down to this team. They know Big Ben. Big Ben just doesn't have a lot of juice left in that arm of his, and he's dealing with a pectoral injury that's been nagging him all year. And so for that reason, I don't know how many shots he can take downfield. So what we're seeing this year is similar to what we saw last year, Jimbo. He's once again getting the ball out faster than any other quarterback in the league. And so for him to do that, you can't take a lot of shots when you're getting the ball out like that, because those guys need time to get down the field for you to throw it down to them. So he's throwing a lot of underneath stuff, dumping it down a lot underneath and letting guys try and make you miss and cause yards after catch. So if they tackle well in this game, I just don't see how the Steelers score enough points to stay with
they
the
move
Ravens.
the ball consistently because they're so dependent on their guys' ability to win one-on-one with the ball.
Absolutely. And they got guys that can do it. Deontay Johnson is quick twitch and can certainly make guys miss in a hallway. Najee Harris, another guy who can run around you or run through some arm tackles as well. He's a great player. Chase Claypool, this is a guy who they like to get the ball in the backfield. They like to run jet sweeps. Even on the goal line, they'll run a jet sweep to this guy. He's a big guy. He's tough to get down. So they have guys that can get a ton of yak yards. And if you allow them to, and you don't gang tackle, you don't swarm to the ball, you don't have good form, and you go for turnovers rather than getting the guy on the ground, it's going to be a long afternoon for this defense. So tackling, once again, my number one priority on defense.
Like it a lot. All right, Ravens O's Nation. I will be there live in enemy territory. That's awesome. I see finally a decisive win this week. Ravens 27, Steelers 13. I think that's interesting, Ravens O's Nation. I don't know if I disagree with you entirely on your score. I think the experience is going to be a blast. Be careful out there. Pittsburgh folks are no joke, just like they are. Baltimore folks are no joke. So enjoy the game.
Head on a swivel.
Head on a
Don't
swivel.
Turn around. Unless you're ready for it, don't cheer at the fans. That's my only advice.
Yeah,
cheer at the field. Yeah, we see all those social media people fighting. You don't want that noise.
Yeah.
I mean,
just enjoy yourself. Enjoy Ravens W and come on home. We want to see you back here in the chat soon. But on your drive home, check us out for the instant reaction, of course. Shameless plug. But the other thing I want to mention too,
tell him to watch us driving.
No. I mean, I'm assuming he's not gonna if he's not the one.
Hey,
driving.
While you're driving, put us on.
Hey, we did a show while I was driving. Okay,
that's true.
But don't watch us and drive. If you're driving, just plug it in and listen. But if you're in the car with people, you can watch it if you're not driving. But this is the thing I want to say. Did you see the report about how Lamar Jackson learned how to juke people and learned his moves?
No.
Playing tag as a kid.
Makes sense.
And you said this before. Could you, Lamar Jackson, be the worst person in the world to play tag against? The worst. It would be terrible.
Yeah,
it would just be no fair. But certainly that cracked me up. That made me think of that we've been talking about that for years and makes total sense. But I want to keep our segment going here. We've had it for a few weeks now based off the video of TJ
Don't forget our breakout players, but go ahead.
Oh, shoot. You're right. Yeah. We'll get to our breakout players, but based on the videos of TJ Watt absolutely pummeling running backs and quarterbacks with overhand rights, left hooks, and uppercuts and things of that nature. Our new segment is, can he beat Jake Paul in a fight? So we bring up a player from the opposing team's defense. And this week we will bring up one TJ Watt. Glenn, serious question. We already talked about Myles Garrett. He has no chance against Myles Garrett. Any more of a chance against TJ Watt?
I think that Jake Paul has a chance against TJ Watt, better chance than he does against Myles Garrett, because Myles Garrett has trained in mixed martial arts with the greatest heavyweight mixed martial artists in the world, one being Stipe Miocic. And Stipe said that Myles Garrett could dominate the UFC if he chose that as his profession. But I think Jake has more of a shot against TJ. If I had to bet my money on one or the other, I'd have to go with TJ because of his competitiveness, his overall size, his athleticism, his speed. But I will say this, I think TJ would need a little bit of training time. Give him a 6-week camp to get ready for it, because Jake is at this point has had a lot of training. And while he gets a lot of hate, you got to give credit where it's due. He's surprised a couple people out there. But no, I think TJ Watt's competitiveness, if JJ Watt was sitting in his corner, TJ can't let Jake Paul beat him, because JJ would never let him hear the end of it. And so, I think TJ's too good of an athlete.
Yeah, I think he's too good of an athlete, but I think this is the big one, is the cardio. I think his cardio might be in a little bit, better situation than Jake Paul, who we saw struggle, against
boxing's a beast, though.
No, it is, but I'm just saying that I don't feel like he's really experienced what it takes to get there anyway. So if you're looking at both of their cardio scenarios, I'm putting my money on TJ Watt from a cardio perspective. So
as long as he recovers from COVID, because we know that can certainly affect your cardio.
Absolutely. But okay, let's get to our defensive breakouts. Glenn, I'm going to cheat here because I was really hoping that he was going to be a defensive breakout last week, and I'm riding with him. I'm going Marlon Humphrey I,
Okay.
you mentioned it before. Some people have said this is a down year for him. But really, to me, I think that Marlon hasn't always been a traditional playmaker in a sense that he's not a Diggs, he's not a Peters, he's not that type of guy where he can't catch it. He admitted on the wire recording that and mic'd up. He can't catch it, right? But I think that through hook or crook, he gets his hands on a ball this week, and I'm going to go one further. He's taking it to the house. To the house. That's right. I see you back there, DK. Yeah. Mark my words, bro.
So you're talking pick six or scoop and score?
Look, I don't know. All right, I already prophesied that he's going to get a touchdown. I'm not going that specific. The vision is not strong, but I have a vision of him running into the end zone.
All right, cool. Well, I certainly hope you're right there. Mine's Pat Queen. I kind of had a little foreshadowing earlier. I think he's going to have another big game. I think he continues to prove the doubters wrong. I think where people were a little too quick to try and cast him aside, being the fact that he was, I think, the youngest player in his draft class and is still a very, very young man who's relatively new to the position. When you consider the fact that he had to wait his turn at LSU, had a bunch of studs in front of him. When he did get his turn, he obviously showed out, and that earned him the right to be a first-round pick by the Ravens. But he's dealt with a lot since he's been in the league. I mean, we talking about he came in the league when it was crazy time with the COVID situations. He's just had a lot to deal with. I think he's going to be he's getting more comfortable with his new role, and it's allowing him to play free and play fast. And from what I've been seeing from Pat Queen, he is certainly not a bust. And if he continues to grow and kind of develop as a linebacker, I think he's going to be a huge, huge player for us going forward. So I think he continues to play well in this game, and he's a big reason why Najee Harris is a bit of an afterthought when this game is over.
Wow, I like that. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to our buddies and everyone that makes this and the ones that make this show possible. Guys, if you've been on every one of these shows, you know that we are good buddies with the folks over at Symbol. So hopefully you guys have been along for the ride as well. But look, the great thing about Symbol, Glenn, is that when the Ravens win this week, we're getting paid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time they win, we got some money in our pockets. But Jimbo, let everyone know about the new and different promotion that they're going to be giving 410 Sports Talks fans if they use promo code 410.
Yeah, so this is really cool, guys. So before we've been promoting. Sorry, I was a little frozen there. We've been promoting the $10 you get for your your first in your first deposit. But what they're doing now is you get 6 months of risk-free investments up to $500. What that means is that you put in $500, max it out. You go in and buy whatever you want. If you lose money and decide it's not for you after 6 months, you get your money back. You get your $500 back. So go in and bet, and not bet because you're not really betting, but you're investing with reckless abandon. Like go with your hunches, go with your trends, right? Hop in there and
risk free.
It's risk-free for 6 months. So as long as you get out in 6 months, you're good to go. You can do 5, 10, 15, all the way up to $500. But there's 2 ways you can make money, guys. And it's much more realistic and possible, in my opinion, than simply gambling. It's dividends through game earnings, and it's buying low and selling high. If you see a trend, do it. Or if you see a team like the Ravens, who to me would be a consistent stock that is going to get you game earnings, buy and be along with be in for the long haul like I am. So Symbol's great. Go check it out. The stock market for sports, like Glenn said, risk-free for 6 months up to $500. Check it out. Make sure you use the promo code 410 SIMBULL.APP. Check it out.
Absolutely. Make money with your sports knowledge. I wish this was around when I was younger. I tell you that, Jimbo, seriously, because I would have made a lot more money to this point dealing in that stock market than the actual stock market, which I know very, very little about. All right, but let's get into what is most exciting. Every week we do an in-show competition, and we encourage all fans to participate in this competition. Ooh. And if you win our weekly competition, you get a shirt in the mail. It's really as simple as simply DMing us on any of the major social media platforms, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or leaving a comment in this very video's comment section after the live stream is complete. Because if you do it now, The live stream's over. Boom, there goes your comments. So make sure you do so after the live stream is over if you want to make your predictions on YouTube itself. But this is how it works. We have 4 over-under questions. And then after those 4 over-under questions, whoever is the best, they could win just off of that. If there's a tie, we go to our 2 tiebreakers. Our 2 tiebreakers are first, closest to the pin when it comes to score predictions. And if we have a tie in that area, then we go to our second tiebreaker, which this week is total yards by the Ravens. So let's start. And of course, we also keep a competition between ourselves with me, Jimmy, and the current and reigning champion of our in-store or in-show competition, DK, which I'm not happy about. But I knew he would put this up. He had to put this up because – but look, can we all agree that I'm on the up? I'm on the rise. Jimmy, when's the last time you won a weekly competition?
Hey, all I know is my accuracy is higher than yours.
And you know what? I'm going to trust that DK did this correctly, but 43% just doesn't sound like your boy over here. I feel like my number should be higher, so I may have to have an independent outside survey done to make sure that this music is too much. All right, so let's get into it as I can take my spot in my rightful spot as the champion. Because it just doesn't. I don't even think you guys feel comfortable with me not being the champion. I think I see it like you feel a little anxious. You're like, oh, we got to get Glenn back up there. And so I'm going to help get myself back in my throne.
One word, delusional.
I mean, all I know is DK, sit the mirrors back when you get out the driver's seat because your boy's getting back in. Scoot that chair back because I got them long legs, and I'm going to need to get back in the driver's seat. So the first over-under this week in our competition is rushing attempts by the running backs. Now, I'm assuming this is referring to the Ravens running backs because most people don't know that we didn't know what these over-unders were until this show started. DK was plugging them in. So this is a bit of a live reaction. So DK, can you clarify this is Ravens running backs? Okay. So total
because these are the 2 offensive ones, so it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, total attempts by the Ravens running backs. DK said it at 21.5. Jimmy, what say you?
I say over. I'm saying over simply because I think this is going to be an AFC North battle in which at the end of the game in throughout the fourth quarter, we're going to start racking up those carries because we're going to have, we're going to be in the driver's seat like you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And the way we're going to maintain control is pounding the rock. So I'm going over 21.5 here, Baltimore. And plus, we're going to attack their weakness. I don't think it's going to be all Lamar Jackson. I don't think it's the Ravens' first option that Lamar Jackson is their leading rusher. So I'm going over.
Man, you know what? I wanted to go under here, but I'm just Well, I'm looking at all the numbers. Last week they went well over that, and
I positioned my argument so perfectly.
No, I was half listening to you. I was barely.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
I turned off one of my hearing aids so I wouldn't have to, so I could read without you. Let me adjust that back up. But no, looking at last week they had 25 carries. So while they didn't destroy it, I also don't think it was a very successful day on the ground. Whereas I do think this week will be a more successful day. So for that reason, I agree. It's going to be over. Look, Lisa Ann is asking Santa for a Glenn win. So we're bringing in some backup for this win, and
it's probably the only way you get a win is through Santa and saying a prayer. You know what I mean? Doing you got to do the naked rain dance and everything else. You got to bring all the juju. You probably have a DK voodoo doll in your booth somewhere. You're just poking at it.
No, I like to win fair and square like I'm going to this week. Be back, like I said, to my rightful spot. All right, next over. Yes, I know Devin Duvernay does not count. I'm aware of the parameters of this competition, and I see running backs. And look, even without him, they had 25 carries.
So does that mean that the sack that Owe got on
he was lined up in the quarterback position.
So what if he's lined up in the running back position?
Then it wouldn't have counted.
No, I'm saying in this scenario.
If Devin Duvernay, can we get some? Because I'm assuming that's going to count. DK, if he lines up where a running back would line up, can we count that as a a running back run, just as we counted the NFL counted
if not,
Jarvis
you better
Landry.
take it off the board.
No,
Look, I think it should be like this. Anything that statistically is registered as a rushing yard.
This would help all of us. I mean, we all agreed on this. So really, do we need to spend much time
But
here?
what that means is that a jet sweep is a rushing yard, right?
It is, but that means Hollywood could, get that. I mean, anyone,
but not the pitch forward, because that's not a rushing yard. That's a pat. That's technically a pass.
we always hand it anyway. We never.
Right, it has to be the handoff. Anything that's a handoff that statistically registers as a carry.
You are in show changing DK's over-unders. Okay, I just want to make sure. He's flexing a little, DK. Do you see this? You see what Jimmy's doing?
I'm asking.
He's pulling rank right here.
No. Does that work for you, DK? Like anything that's registered as a rush.
Now he's trying to form it like a question.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. All right. So no, he says
okay,
no.
So Devin Duvernay's out of the equation.
Hard stance. I like it,
all
DK.
Right.
I like it.
Deal.
Okay.
Deal,
all right. Let's move on to the next one. Passing yard differential is the next over-under, and DK sets it at the Ravens plus 19.5. So meaning that will the Ravens have 19.5 more passing yards than do the Steelers? I'm going to say over here because I just do not believe in the cooked noodle that is Ben Roethlisberger's right arm, and I think the Ravens will hit on some big plays. And for that reason, I think the Ravens go over that total. What do you think, Jimbo?
I'm going under because I think they're going to throw the ball 50 million times.
Okay.
I just think it's that simple. I think that, look, the Ravens had one good game at tackling. And it only takes another bad one, and Najee Harris breaks one for 40. Najee Harris breaks one for 12, breaks one for 8. You know what I mean? These 2-yard throws turn into 24-yard gains simply because we aren't tackling. So between the combination of throwing it a million times and the Ravens' inconsistent tackling, while most recently has been decent, I'm going to say under in differential. Apologies.
Dang. I'm not going to let you talk me out of this one, Jimbo, but you almost did. That was a good one, and I agree.
So you kept your hearing aids on that one.
Yeah, I kept them on that time because I think that you made some good points there. I think that they will be behind, which will cause, obviously, more throws. And if the Ravens tackling doesn't do well, then they could. But I'm going to say over because I'm betting on my breakout player, Pat Queen, and my defensive key tackling. I think they know those keys. I mean, they watch. You don't think Wink watches the show? I mean, Wink watches the show. That way he can pass this information along to the players. Right. So they're going to be keying on tackling this week. And I think for that reason, I'm going to go over and say the Ravens have more than 19.5 yards passing than the Steelers.
Interesting. I even think in a good defensive performance, just simply based on volume, I feel pretty confident in this.
I hope it's right. I hope it's right there too, Jimbo. I hope it's 20 yards more just to really chap your you-know-what. All right, moving on to defensive over-unders. Najee Harris rushing yards. DK sets it at 64.
Wait. DK didn't get to go.
Oh, my bad. All right, my bad. I thought we were doing a different thing here now, but okay. We can do – oh, that's right. We took away the keys. That's what we did, not the over-unders. Yeah. Okay, all right. Sorry, DK. I apologize. Over for both. We forgot DK on both. So he says over for DK. Both. But look, we're recording it, so don't worry. We see what DK's predicting. All right, so defensively, we're talking Najee Harris rushing yards. We set it at 64.5 because that is his season average. I'm going to say under. The way they performed against Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and that Browns offense that has a far better offensive line, even as banged up as it was losing Conklin mid-game, they're still better than what the Steelers are going to trot out there. And their running backs were better. As good as Najee Harris is, I still think Nick Chubb is a better back, and I'd take him over him. So I'm going to say under 64.5 yards. I think it's going to be some tough sledding. But I think Najee could have an awful lot of catches out of the backfield. But, yeah, so I'm going to say under.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm going to say just under, but I do think Ben's just going to be chucking it out there a lot. And giving him the rock, giving him a lot of opportunities. So, yeah, I think he has a decent day in the receptions and yards, total yards, from a total yards perspective. But, yeah, I think he's under 64. The Ravens want to stop the run, period. And I don't think he's an overwhelmingly fast guy. that would be more difficult to contain on the outside. So I think the Ravens, even though I mentioned before, relatively older defense, not the fastest defense in the world, they match up well with a guy who relies on his physicality. I think they can be just as physical up front. And so, yeah, I think it's under. DK, what say you? Oh, what say you, DK? Under. DK from down under.
We're in a lot of, you know what? I'm going to oh, finally. Okay. All right, good. Because I was about to say, did I just agree with DK on all of them? I can't have that be the case. All right, so for the last over-under defensively, we have turnover differential. We set it at Ravens plus 0.5, but let's be honest. I mean, neither one of these teams have been good in this area. I mean, both of these teams, I believe, have a negative turnover differential. To pull that up just to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn here. But no, yeah, they do. They have a -4 turnover differential. Do the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ravens. I mean, after last week, you throw 4 picks. I mean, I know they lost last week by 2 turnovers. Let me see here. This week, the Ravens are -7 in turnover differential. So both are bad. But I think the Ravens go over this number. I think they do turn the Steelers over. And look, Lamar Jackson was embarrassed by the way he played. I mean, he was not proud of that performance. So I think in heightened focus on keeping the ball on our side, I think will mean the Ravens have a turnover-free game, which I don't know how many of those they've had, if any, this year. So I think this is maybe the first turnover-free game for the Ravens, and I think they get 1 or 2 from the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I think that this is a game where Lamar bounces back in a strong way, and obviously that affects this number greatly. So I'm going to say over as well. I think that the Ravens will win the turnover battle. And just really quickly before DK, you give yours, I'm just noticing on Twitter and somebody mentioned in our chat, Marlon Humphrey, I think is good for Sunday because he's at the Wizards game right now. So, and I think he's fine.
Yeah, he's been tweeting an awful lot lately too. So, yeah, I think he'll be fine. Cool. Well, that's good to hear that if he's out in public, he must be feeling. But a lot
mask
better.
up, Marlon.
Yes, please do at an event like that.
Because he's currently not. So mask up.
Maybe he just peeked it down for a picture or something.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so because we need him healthy, and it seems like there's an illness going around the whole league, not just the Ravens. All right, DK, what do you got on the turnover differential?
Yes, sir.
Under, and finally we have a difference. Thank goodness, because
0. So you're saying 0 in the different. All right, interesting.
Or negative.
Yeah.
You know, it could be. We could be negative, which we have pretty much the vast majority of the season. When you're -7 for the season. Okay, so. That's it for our over-under competitions. And again, you can participate by simply DMing us on any of the social media platforms or waiting for this stream to be over and sending a comment below. All right, so now for our closest to the pin tiebreakers, we'll start with our second tiebreaker, and then we'll end with our score. So the first is total yards for the Ravens. We're close again this week, fellas. We got a lot. I don't have a very big window, but I guess I do. Anything above 366... and I win, or 367. So I set it at 372 total yards for the Ravens. I think this is a big week for the Ravens. The Steelers are not good this year defensively, and I think this is kind of a get-right game for the Ravens offense. At least I'm hoping it will. So I got us 372 yards of offense, and I like seeing that as long as it's 367 or up, I win. So I'll be rooting for lots of yards for the Ravens. Go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm going a little bit under that. 360 is where I'm going. I think it's going to be a slow churning game, like a 3 yards cloud of dust type game, where we'll feel like we're in control throughout the entire game. However, I don't think we're going to be lighting up the scoreboard either team based on the rivalry, right? And so yeah, I'm going 360. DK, what do you got? 340.
Now, Jimmy, does this bother you at all that I'm
stuck in the middle?
Yeah, I gave you have between 351 to 366. You have about a 15-yard window where you can win this.
Thanks, guys.
And I'll say this: my yardage was up, I think, first.
So I'm not even gonna need it. That's the thing.
Yours was up last, so really the only one you have to blame.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not even gonna need it. I'm not concerned about it. I'm gonna win the over under.
So, which would tell me if you win this, all the more credit and all the more kudos for getting.
Well,
that
I mean,
right.
I am more accurate than you.
I can't even remember the last time you won. Like, DK, do you remember the last week Jimmy actually
Yeah,
was announced as the winner?
Yeah, so you went on to it's 4 weeks ago. Okay, it's been a month. All
Okay.
right. But
Okay. All
the
right.
last one
I mean, a
before you
month
started your
ago,
little streak,
my
your little
little
two your
streak.
your
You don't
little
have to
two
put
game
little.
your
My
little two
streak.
your your little 2-game winning streak. Really quickly before we get to our scores, bold prediction, and I think he's being sarcastic here from Tim yes. They will oh no. Dang it.
I think it's
Adi.
Adi.
Adi. Adi. That's what it
Yeah.
is. They will start slow and win. LOL. Yes. I mean, I can totally see that.
Yes.
Certainly. But let me roll that right into my score then, Glenn. I'm going, geez whiz, I do this every time. Historically, there's like a 3-point difference between these teams, I think is what it is. I'm going with a 10-point win for the Baltimore Ravens. 27-17. The Ravens win it and seal it late. It's going to be 24-17, something of that nature. And then Tucker seals it late. I think we will feel in control more than half of the game, but I don't think the game will be out of reach for more than 3 minutes of the game at the end or something of that nature. So 27-17 is what I'm saying. Ravens win in Heinz Field for the last time in Ben's career.
Yeah, that'll be good to send Ben off of his own field for the final time against the Ravens with a loss. I have the Ravens winning 24-20, total score of 44. I think you're a little crazy to predict a blowout for the Ravens when that's just not what they do. But I'll tell you this, Jimbo, I'm rooting for you to be the one who's right here because I'm going to dust you in the over-unders and it won't come down to this. And so, I'd be much happier knowing that this is a game that's stress-free. And a 10-point win will certainly be less stressful than a 4-point win, but I just can't predict it. So I got them 24-20 in a pretty tight contested game. But I think the Steelers are going to need a touchdown late, and they come up just short.
Yeah. All right, DK, what you got? 2017. All right. So DK has the closest margin like he did last week. I think
the lowest total score, which he also had
last week. So I have to learn a thing or two from old.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in the old vault.
Old Daniel Kunimoto over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the old
vault.
Greg Roman vault and store it for later in the season when my strategies get unveiled.
Right, exactly. That's what it is. I tell you what, I'm excited for this game. It is Ravens Steelers week. It's Steelers week nonetheless. I'm looking forward to it. I had an absolute blast tonight. Should we give some shout outs, Glenn?
Yeah, let's do it. Axel, very active. I appreciate the activity in our comments. He thinks that Lamar's smelling blood, and I hope he's certainly right about that. Appreciate Tim always jumping in here. Lisa Ann always showing the support, the love, never misses a show. Thank you so much, Lisa Ann, for your continued support.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Matt Williams says a close one, and I tend to agree with him there. I think it will be a close win. And he thinks James is going to win the over-under this week. I don't like seeing that. I don't want to see really any growing support for Jimmy in the chat.
Guys, don't make me the Skip Bayless of the show, please.
Yes.
Some of you guys show some love. Like, am I that terrible? Come on.
You did get some love there. So be happy with what you got. I mean, my goodness.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. So King Apugo still not sold on Greg Roman. I don't know if
will be.
Yeah, exactly. But I do appreciate your continued support.
Definitely.
Billy Seals.
And Ravens O Nation for going up there representing. Stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, be careful out there. Billy Seals, thanks for always supporting us. Yep. Is it Chardon Owens participating? Again, if you want to participate, make sure you do so in the comments after the video is over.
Or DM us on any of our anywhere on social media.
Yep, absolutely. Nana, always love the support. Appreciate you coming out there. I know you'll be cheering hard for the Ravens. RTV, thanks for coming out. He says Queen needs to put on a couple next year, and I can see that. I wouldn't mind seeing a couple more pounds of muscle on Patrick Queen's frame. Dawson, yeah, Watt right now still kind of up in the air.
It's going to be interesting.
I hate to root against a guy to play, but it would certainly be a lot easier if he wasn't out there. Dave Cutsale, appreciate your continued support as well as your significant other. I don't know if it's more than a girlfriend or not, but appreciate Marky.
We'll just leave it there.
Yeah, exactly. But Gavin, thanks for coming out. Donald Fowler, thanks for supporting the show and commenting. Everyone else who I missed, I do apologize, but thank you so much. Everyone who watched silently, thank you for your continued support. And most importantly, when this game is over, come back right here. We will be here live with our reaction, whether it's sadness or elation. We will be here with you to you to vent your grievances and get your frustrations out.
And you get to see if you won.
And Lisa Ann says, James, you're a good guy. So there you go, Jimbo.
Appreciate it, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Flo knows. Thanks for the compliment. We will talk to you guys soon. Have a good evening.